Okay, there we are. Have it. We have both rocker boxes now in position, and just put the bolts in loosely. Just the finger all hand tight, not finger tight, like hand tight on the socket. Let's have a look. So yeah, everything's turning over really nicely. No nasty sounds or surprises. Valves are going up and down. All as they should. I'm trying to do this one-handed, making a mess of it. All nice and smooth. No untoward sounds or, everything. The valves are just going opening and closing as they should. There they go, all go. Yeah, on exhaust. As I say, one thing, we've got roughly the same amount of thread coming out on all the adjusters. So that's a good sign that the push rods are properly seated. And now I've turned the light off. Well, the light's gone, so you probably can't see inside, but they're seated. That I can see, because we got the inspection caps off. I can see that everything's seated on the push rods there properly, and you can tell from the feel of the engine, everything's turning over really smoothly, really nice. So I'm very, very pleased. So the next things we'll be doing, we'll be putting these inspection caps back on. And we'll be torquing the head down, and as we do that, we'll tighten up the rocker box bolts and these 3 Allen screws along the front as we go down. So we've got the 10, is it 2, 4, 6, 8, 10? We've got the 12 cylinder head bolts, and then we've got the 4 corner rocker box bolts, and then we've got the 3 Allen key bolts as we tighten it down. And what I normally do is I just slightly over tighten it, because I know, because I'm using a composite gasket and we're using a composite rocker box gasket, I know the whole thing will tend to just loosen up straight away as soon as it's started. And so to prevent it getting really loose and possibly blowing the gasket, because it can go from 18 down to like 14, or what is it? I'm trying to remember whatever the torque setting is it 20? Can't remember, but whatever it is, it can drop really low, and I'm always worried that it'll blow a gasket unless I tighten it up really fast, and so I'll just over tighten it. Maybe I'm just trying to think whether to do that. Not sure, but whatever the case, I'm going to tighten it straight back up again as soon as the engine started. And obviously we'll put the exhaust centre exhaust manifold in when we've got the inspection caps on, when it's all tightened up. Then we'll set the tappets, but bearing in mind I'm going to be resetting them as soon as the engine started, and then we'll put the inspection caps on, and that's all the rocker boxes done. Well, we'll get ready to do that, because I'm not going to put the caps on, because we're then going to check the valve timing and to see if we can set it for maximum power. And to do that, we need to put not a micrometer, a dial gauge, can't think of the word, a gauge on the top of the valve. So obviously when you're going to need access to that. What's it called? Anyway, I'll think of it when we come to do it. I'll think of the right a measuring gauge anyway. Yeah. Okay, so all marvellously good. Very pleased. It's always a fiddly job getting those on. Everything seems to be seated well in terms of all the push rods and so on. And so, nothing seemed to come unseated. So I'm fairly sure that we'll be oil tight there. But, time will tell. Everything's, but it is all looking good there. I've got a good amount of crush on those bottom seals without having overdone it. Yeah, good. Okay, and I've put new seals on the inspection caps now that I know the push rods are safely sort of seated in the push rods, and the rockers are safely seated together. So I've put new seals on the caps, put them on, and then I've got this little gadget here, which I think I got from one of the Triumph suppliers. And so what that does is that just slots in. If I can get my fingers out of the way to show you, it just slots in there, and then you can put a spanner on to tighten that up. It's just, it's awkward to get anything in because it's quite tight, to get a tool in to do these up nice and tight. So this little thing, this little gadget, very simple, but it works well. Now, this is a sort of typical scenario we've got now. So I thought I'd replace the 4 outer cylinder head bolts because they're very obvious, and they're a bit old and rusty and stuff. So I ordered some new ones with the spacers, and I'm glad to say the spacers have arrived, and they are the proper thick ones. Not sometimes they'll send you, yeah, we got them, and they'll just send you an ordinary washer. Okay, good. So we got those, but then this is the old bolt. That on there is the new bolt that they've sent. Look how much shorter that is. That only just goes in the thread. Now, luckily, by chance, I've got four of these bolts, which are almost as long. So they'll be fine. I'll use them. They're just a tiny bit shorter, but that's typical. I've paid. This is stainless steel. It's supposed to be the same bolt. It's obviously completely different. And if I did use it, there's only a few threads go in, and it's going to be done up to torque. So not great. Okay, we're getting ready to torque the cylinder head down now. So we've got the 12 cylinder head bolts, and in the manual it shows the order to tighten them down. So it's basically in like an X pattern. So you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. You sort of go in like an X and then a cross, and yeah. Anyway, the details in there, and the reason that we tighten from the middle outwards is because it sort of like flattens the metal either side. Like when you're putting a sheet on a bed, you need to stroke it out. If you do it from the outside inwards, then you end up with a crease in the middle. And don't forget that this metal is fluid, and that's why you do it. If you tighten it from the outside, you will end up with a crease in the middle there. So so we're just getting ready, and we've got all the heads, got the new stainless steel ones on the outside, and we're just going to tighten these down. I'm going to do them up to 20 foot-pounds. It should be 18. Now the reason I'm doing it up to 20 is because I know, this being a composite gasket, it will loosen straight off when we start the engine, and I don't want it to go so loose that it blows the gasket. So I'm doing it up to 20, and then when we re-torque it later, I will do it up to 18. Okay, so we'll get the torque wrench, we'll get it set to 20 in this case, and then starting in the middle, working outwards, and obviously doing it bit by bit. We're not going to tighten the whole middle up to 18, 20. Then the next one we do it up, bit by bit. We keep going back until they're all tight. Okay, so we're going around just 1, 2, just doing them up a little bit at a time. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I'm also just going to slightly tighten the 4 rocker box bolts, and also tighten down these 3 Allen screws at either lip of the rockers, just as we, rather than leave it until the whole thing's tight, it could warp them. So as it's going down, then I'm tightening them. Okay, there we go. I'll carry on. Back to the first one. Right, I think there must be pretty nearly up to torque on these by now. Right, okay, so let's see what we got. No, I've done that up fairly tight, it's still not gone. Tighter than I thought. Well, that one's gone. That one's gone. I'll do these two. There we go, that's gone now. Right, and that's now gone. It's gone. That's the socket. It's a good idea to use a long socket actually on these. I don't know why I'm not. So that you can get over the stud. But this socket is just long enough to clear the thread. So that's decided that is now to scratch. There we go. There we go. And the 4 outer ones. There we go. There we go. Oh dear, what's happening there? Ah, it's gone now. There we go. There. And then we just go around and just check that they are indeed all up to torque. We're all up to torque, and then I'll just go back round and finish doing these corners. Don't over tighten these because they will strip, because these are only into alloy. These four corner ones, they only go into the head, they're only into alloy, so don't over tighten. And then we've got the Allen keys, Allen screws in his lip. We can do these up pretty tight. But I think maybe this is where mine's leaking from on my T160, either down the thread through these Allen screws or from the mating face of the rocket boxes to the head at the front there. There we go. Good. And that's all done. Now when we start the engine, we will be re-torquing everything down, including the rocker bolts and the Allen screws at the front. Because as I say, it tends to be, especially with the composite gasket, everything seems to sort of settle in a bit and you just want to go through and just check everything's done. But there we are, we're all torqued down and excellent. I'll roughly set the tappet gaps, but again, oh dear, someone coming in. Sorry. Sorry. Thanks a lot. What was I going to say? I'm roughly setting the tappet gaps but I'm not going to do them accurately because, again, of course, when we torque everything down, when the engines run a bit, that's when I need to set everything exactly and precisely. You know, I could take ages setting it precisely now, but it'll all go out of, you know, it'll all need redoing when we retort the head down, so it's pointless. So I'll get them rough, just get rid of some weld seal there. I mean, I'll get rid of, you can see there's little bits of weld seal all over it. You know, a little bit there, then you can see that, you know, smear with like a thumbprint. But I'll get rid of all that later. When I've weld sealed everything, I'll get rid of everything then. Great. Yeah, look at that. Engine beginning to look like an engine now. Let's have a look. Let's go back a bit. Still on the tripod, but there we go. But yeah, beginning to look a bit like an engine now. So, great stuff.